Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I want to talk to you about something that affects every single person in this room. Something that's been holding you back, perhaps for years, perhaps for decades. It's called the cycle. And today we're going to talk about how to break it. You see, most people go through life like they're on a merry-go-round. Same thoughts, same actions, same results, year after year. They wake up, they go through the motions, they go to bed, and they do it all over again tomorrow. 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and they look around and wonder, how did I end up here? How did I become this person? Why hasn't anything changed? Let me tell you something fundamental about life. Life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by change. And that change doesn't start with your circumstances. It doesn't start with the economy. It doesn't start with your boss or your spouse or the government. It starts with you. It starts with a decision to break the cycle. Now, what is this cycle I'm talking about? It's the pattern of thinking and doing that produces the same results over and over again. It's the cycle of mediocrity, the cycle of settling, the cycle of excuses, the cycle of blame. And here's what you must understand. Cycles don't break themselves. They require intervention. They require you to step up and say, enough, this ends now, this ends with me. I've seen it thousands of times. People trapped in financial cycles, they make a little money, they spend a little money, they run out of money, they borrow a little money, and the cycle continues. People trapped in health cycles, they feel bad, they eat poorly, they feel worse, they promise to change, but they don't, and the cycle continues. People trapped in relationship cycles, career cycles, emotional cycles, round and round and round. But here's the good news, and I want you to really hear this. You have the power to break any cycle in your life. Any cycle. The power is already inside you. You don't need to wait for conditions to be perfect. You don't need someone to give you permission. You don't need a miracle. You need a decision followed by discipline. That's it. That's the formula. Let me start with the foundation. Before you can break the cycle, you've got to understand how cycles are created in the first place. Every cycle begins with a thought, one single thought. That thought leads to a feeling. That feeling leads to an action. That action produces a result, and that result reinforces the original thought, and there's your cycle. Thought, feeling, action, result. Thought, feeling, action, result. Over and over until it becomes automatic, until it becomes who you are. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people are unconscious of their cycles. They're not even aware they're in one. They think their life is just happening to them. They think they're victims of circumstance. But let me tell you something that changed my life when I first understood it. You are not a victim of your life, you are a participant in your life. You're not just an observer, you're a creator. And what you've created, you can uncreate. What you've built, you can rebuild. So let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about the actual process of breaking the cycle. And I'm going to give this to you in steps, not because life is simple, but because complexity is the enemy of execution. If it's too complicated, you won't do it. So let's make it simple. Let's make it doable. Step one, awareness. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. You've got to get brutally honest with yourself about the cycles you're in. And I mean brutally honest. Not kind of honest. Not honest except for the parts that hurt too much to look at. Brutally honest. Sit down with a piece of paper and write out the cycles in your life. What patterns keep repeating? Where are you getting the same results year after year? What are you complaining about today that you were complaining about 5 years ago? This is where most people fail before they even start. They won't look. They won't examine. They won't admit. They'd rather keep the cycle going than face the truth about it. But you can't be like most people. Most people are broke. Most people are unhappy. Most people are living lives of quiet desperation. You want different results? You've got to do different things. And the first different thing you've got to do is look at the truth. Write it down. Financial cycle? Write it down. Career cycle? Write it down. Health cycle? Write it down. Relationship cycle? Write it down. Get it out of your head and onto paper where you can see it. Because here's what happens when you write it down. It becomes real. It becomes tangible. It becomes something you can work with instead of something that just swirls around in your mind, making you feel guilty and inadequate. Step two, accept responsibility. This is the big one. This is where the rubber meets the road. You've got to stop blaming. Stop blaming your parents. Stop blaming your circumstances. Stop blaming the economy. Stop blaming your education or your lack of education. Stop blaming your age or your race or your gender or your geography. Stop blaming. Now, I'm not saying those things don't matter. I'm not saying you haven't had challenges. I'm not saying life has been fair. Life isn't fair. It never has been. It never will be. But here's what I know for certain. Blame is the most expensive luxury on earth. It costs you everything. It costs you your future, because as long as you're blaming someone else, they have the power. They have your power. And you can't break a cycle when someone else has your power. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means everything is your responsibility. There's a difference. You didn't choose your childhood, but you're responsible for your adulthood. You didn't choose the economy you were born into, but you're responsible for how you respond to it. You didn't choose your natural talents or lack thereof, but you're responsible for developing whatever you've got. When you accept responsibility, something magical happens. You get your power back. You become the author of your story instead of a character in someone else's story. You become the creator instead of the victim. And creation is where all the good stuff happens. Creation is where miracles live. Step 3, make a decision. Not a wish, not a hope, not a wouldn't it be nice if, a decision, a real decision. You know what decision means? It comes from the Latin word meaning to cut off. When you make a real decision, you cut off all other possibilities. You burn the boats, you remove the escape routes, you commit. Most people don't make decisions, they make preferences. I'd prefer to be wealthy. I'd prefer to be healthy. I'd prefer to have better relationships. Preferences don't break cycles. Decisions break cycles. When you decide, truly decide, something shifts in the universe. Doors open. Opportunities appear. Strength you didn't know you had comes flooding in. I decided at age 25 to break the financial cycle I was in. And let me tell you, it was a real cycle. I was broke. Pennies in my pocket, nothing in the bank. I had been living that way since I was a kid. My family was poor. My friends were poor. I thought poor. I acted poor. I was poor. But on one particular day, I made a decision. Not a wish, a decision. I decided that poverty was not going to be my story. I cut off that possibility. I said, that's it, that life ends today. Did everything change overnight? No, but something changed immediately. My awareness changed, my attention changed. I started noticing things I had never noticed before. Opportunities I had walked past 100 times suddenly became visible. Why? Because decision creates focus, and focus creates results. Step 4, change your philosophy. Here's what most people don't understand. You can't have a $1 million dream with a minimum wage philosophy. You can't have championship results with an amateur philosophy. Your philosophy is the way you think. It's your beliefs, your attitudes, your perspectives. And your philosophy creates your results more than anything else. If you've got a poverty philosophy, you're going to produce poverty results. If you've got a victim philosophy, you're going to produce victim results. If you've got a mediocre philosophy, you're going to produce mediocre results. It's that simple. You cannot outperform your philosophy. The cycle will continue until the philosophy changes. So how do you change your philosophy? You feed your mind different food. You read different books. You listen to different voices. You associate with different people. You ask different questions. You see, your philosophy isn't set in stone. It's not genetic. It's learned. And what's been learned can be unlearned. What's been programmed can be reprogrammed. I meet people all the time who say, Jim, I just can't seem to get ahead. And I ask them, what are you reading? And they say, I don't really read. What are you listening to? Oh, just the news and whatever's on the radio. Who are you spending time with? Same people I've always spent time with. And there's your answer. There's your cycle. Garbage in, garbage out. You cannot have a prosperity consciousness while feeding your mind poverty information. The cycle breaks when you start feeding your mind new information, better information, when you start reading books that challenge you, when you start listening to ideas that expand you, when you start associating with people who inspire you. Your philosophy changes, and when your philosophy changes, everything changes. Step 5, change your activity. This is where most people get stuck. They get awareness, they accept responsibility, they make a decision, they even start working on their philosophy. But they don't change their activity. They keep doing the same things they've always done. And guess what happens? They get the same results they've always gotten, because activity produces results. Not wishes, not intentions. Activity. If you want to break the financial cycle, you've got to change your financial activity. You've got to start earning more, or spending less, or investing differently. If you want to break the health cycle, you've got to change your health activity. You've got to start moving your body, or eating differently, or sleeping better. If you want to break the relationship cycle, you've got to change your relationship activity. You've got to start communicating differently, or listening better, or showing up differently. Same activity, same results. Different activity, different results. It really is that simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Changing your activity is hard because your current activity is a habit. It's comfortable. It's familiar. It's what you know. And human beings love comfort and familiarity even when it's killing them. You've got to be willing to be uncomfortable. You've got to be willing to feel awkward. You've got to be willing to fail a few times while you're learning the new activity. Most people won't do that. They try something new, it feels weird, they don't get immediate results, and they go right back to the old activity, right back to the cycle. But you're not most people. You're somebody who's reading this because you're ready for a change. You're ready to break the cycle. So you've got to commit to the new activity even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're not good at it yet, even when you're not seeing results yet. You've got to trust the process. Step 6, measure your progress. You can't manage what you don't measure. If you want to break a cycle, you've got to track your progress. You've got to keep score. You've got to write it down. Numbers don't lie. Numbers tell you the truth, and truth is what sets you free. Let's say you're breaking a financial cycle. Measure it. How much are you earning this month compared to last month? How much are you saving? How much are you investing? Write it down. Look at it. Let the numbers talk to you. If the numbers aren't moving, your activity isn't right. Adjust. If the numbers are moving, you're on the right track. Keep going. Let's say you're breaking a health cycle. Measure it. What's your weight? What's your energy level? How many days this week did you exercise? How many servings of vegetables did you eat? Write it down. Track it. Because what gets measured gets improved. What gets tracked gets done. Most people don't measure because they don't want to face the truth. They want to believe they're making progress when they're not. They want to believe they're working hard when they're not. They want to believe they've changed when they haven't. But belief without evidence is delusion, and delusion keeps you in the cycle. Measure, track, record. Let the numbers show you where you really are. Not where you wish you were, not where you think you are, where you really are. Because once you know where you really are, you can chart a course to where you want to be. Step 7, persist. This is the ultimate key. This is what separates the people who break the cycle from the people who stay stuck. Persistence. The willingness to keep going when it's hard, when it's not working yet, when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when everyone around you is telling you to give up and go back to the old way. Cycles are stubborn. They don't break easily. They've been years in the making, sometimes decades. They're reinforced by habit, by environment, by the people around you, by your own self-image. When you try to break them, they fight back. You'll have setbacks. You'll have failures. You'll have moments when you slip back into the old pattern. This is normal. This is part of the process. The question is not whether you'll face resistance. The question is whether you'll persist through the resistance. Will you get up one more time than you fall down? Will you keep going when everything in you wants to quit? Will you stay committed to the new path even when the old path is calling your name? I've watched thousands of people try to break cycles over the years. You want to know the difference between the ones who succeed and the ones who fail? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not connections. It's persistence. The successful ones just didn't quit. They kept showing up. They kept doing the work. They kept measuring. They kept adjusting. They kept going. And eventually, inevitably, the cycle broke. There's a principle in physics called inertia. An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest. Cycles have inertia. They want to keep going. But when you apply consistent force in a different direction, eventually the inertia shifts. Eventually the momentum changes. Eventually you break through. But you've got to stay with it. You've got to give it time. Don't judge the first week. Don't even judge the first month. Give it a season. Give it 90 days of consistent, focused, measured effort. 90 days of the new philosophy, the new activity, the new commitment. Do that, and I promise you the cycle will start to crack. Now let me talk about the role of association in breaking cycles. This is huge. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me the people you spend time with, and I'll tell you what cycles you're going to be stuck in or free from. You cannot break a cycle while surrounding yourself with people who are in the same cycle. It's impossible. If you're trying to break a financial cycle, but all your friends are broke and they want to talk about how broke they are and how unfair life is and how the rich people have all the advantages, you will not break that cycle. Their energy will pull you back. Their philosophy will infect you. Their activity will influence you. If you're trying to break a health cycle, but everyone around you eats poorly and doesn't exercise and makes fun of people who take care of their bodies, you will not break that cycle. The social pressure is too strong. The environment is too powerful. You've got to change your associations. You've got to find people who are where you want to be. People who have broken the cycles you're trying to break. People who think differently, act differently, live differently. You've got to spend time with them. Learn from them. Model them. Let their philosophy rub off on you. Let their standards become your standards. Let their habits become your habits. This doesn't mean you abandon everyone in your life, but it does mean you've got to be selective about who gets your time and energy. You've got to protect your mind and your commitment. You've got to create an environment that supports the new you, not the old you. I changed my associations when I started breaking my cycles. I stopped hanging around the complainers and the blamers and the excuse makers. I started seeking out the achievers and the learners and the people who were going somewhere. And let me tell you, it made all the difference. Their belief in what was possible became my belief. Their work ethic became my work ethic. Their results became evidence that I could do it too. Association is powerful. Use it wisely. Use it intentionally. Surround yourself with people who make you better, not people who keep you where you are. Let me talk now about the importance of learning and breaking cycles. Ignorance is expensive. It costs you opportunities. It costs you money. It costs you time. It costs you relationships. If you're in a cycle, part of the reason is ignorance. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know a better way. You don't know the strategies, the principles, the techniques that would set you free. The antidote to ignorance is learning, aggressive, intentional, consistent learning. You've got to become a student. You've got to read books, listen to teachers, attend seminars, take courses, study your field, study success, study failure, study human behavior, study economics, study whatever relates to the cycle you're trying to break. When I was trying to break my financial cycle, I became a ferocious learner. I read every book I could find on business, on finance, on personal development, on success principles. I listened to audio programs in my car. I went to seminars even when I couldn't afford them. I found mentors and asked them questions. I studied wealthy people, not to envy them, but to learn from them. And here's what I discovered. The information was out there. The knowledge existed. The strategies worked. I just didn't know about them because I had never looked. I had been living in ignorance, repeating the same mistakes, making the same poor decisions, getting the same poor results. But when I started learning, everything changed. New information led to new understanding led to new decisions led to new actions led to new results. You've got to commit to being a lifetime learner, not just until you break the cycle, forever. Because life keeps changing. New challenges emerge. New opportunities appear. New cycles can form if you're not careful. But if you're learning, you're growing. And if you're growing, you're not stuck. Let's talk about the power of small disciplines. Breaking a cycle doesn't require massive action. It requires consistent action. Small disciplines repeated daily. Little things that don't seem like much in the moment but compound over time. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're in a financial cycle and you decide to start saving. You can't save much, just $5 a day. $5 doesn't seem like much. It doesn't feel significant. You could spend $5 without even thinking about it, but if you save $5 a day, every day for a year, you've got over $1,800. For 5 years, over $9,000. For 10 years, over $18,000. And that's without any interest or investment growth. $5 a day, a small discipline, but repeated consistently over time, it breaks the cycle. It creates a new pattern, a new habit, a new identity. You become a saver. And once you become a saver, other financial disciplines become easier. You start looking for ways to earn more. You start learning about investing. You start making smarter decisions with your money. It works the same with health. You don't have to run a marathon tomorrow. You don't have to completely overhaul your diet overnight. You just have to take a walk today. Eat one healthy meal today. Drink water instead of soda today. Small disciplines. But repeated daily, they compound. They build on each other. They create momentum. The problem is most people discount small disciplines. They think, what difference will $5 make? What difference will one walk make? What difference will one healthy meal make? And the answer is none. One day won't make a difference, but one day repeated for 100 days, for 1,000 days, for 10,000 days, that makes all the difference in the world. Small disciplines or small errors in judgment. That's the choice. Either way, they compound. Either way, they create your future. You can make small errors in judgment, little compromises, tiny neglects, and they don't seem to matter. But over time, they create disaster. Or you can make small disciplines, little investments, tiny improvements, and they don't seem to matter. But over time, they create success. Breaking the cycle is about choosing small disciplines over small errors in judgment every single day. No exceptions, no excuses. Just consistent, patient, persistent application of the right disciplines. Now I want to talk about the mental and emotional battle of breaking cycles. This is rarely discussed, but it's critically important. When you start to break a cycle, your mind will resist. Your emotions will fight you. Because your current cycle, as unsatisfying as it may be, is familiar. It's known. It's safe. And your brain loves safety and familiarity. When you step into something new, your brain perceives danger. It sends out alarm signals. It creates doubt. It whispers, what if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if it doesn't work? What if you're not good enough? Maybe you should just go back to the old way. At least you know what to expect. You've got to expect this. You've got to prepare for it. You've got to know that resistance is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. Resistance is a sign that you're doing something significant. You're changing, you're growing, you're breaking the cycle. And anytime you do something that threatens the status quo, resistance shows up. How do you deal with this mental and emotional resistance? First, you acknowledge it. You don't fight it. You don't try to pretend it's not there. You say, yes, I feel doubt. Yes, I feel fear. Yes, I feel uncomfortable, and I'm going to do it anyway. Second, you remind yourself why you're doing this. Why are you breaking this cycle? What's at stake? What will your life look like if you succeed? What will it look like if you don't? Get clear on your reasons. Write them down. Read them every day. Let them fuel you when the resistance gets strong. Third, you focus on the process, not the outcome. Don't think about how far you have to go. Don't think about how much you have to change. Just think about today. What's the next right action? What's the next small discipline? Do that, then do it again tomorrow. And the next day, and the next. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one step at a time. And fourth, you celebrate the small wins. Every time you choose the new path over the old path, that's a win. Acknowledge it. Appreciate it. Let yourself feel proud of it. Because those small wins compound. They build confidence. They strengthen your resolve. They prove to you that you can do this. Let me tell you something about cycles that most people never realize. Cycles exist at multiple levels. There are daily cycles, weekly cycles, monthly cycles, yearly cycles, even generational cycles. And often breaking one cycle requires breaking cycles at multiple levels. For example, you might have a daily cycle of starting your morning in a reactive state, checking your phone, getting stressed, and never quite catching up the rest of the day. You might have a weekly cycle of working hard Monday through Thursday, and then sabotaging yourself with poor choices on the weekend. You might have a monthly cycle of spending whatever you earn. You might have a yearly cycle of making big plans in January and giving up by March. And you might have a generational cycle, patterns you learned from your family that have been repeated for decades. To truly break the cycle, you've got to examine all these levels. You've got to identify the patterns at each level and make changes at each level. It's not enough to just change one thing. You've got to change the whole system. This is why transformation is hard. It's not one change, it's many changes. It's a complete redesign of how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you respond, how you invest your time, how you invest your money, how you invest your energy. But here's the beautiful part. When you change at multiple levels, the results multiply. When you fix your daily cycle, your weeks get better. When you fix your weekly cycle, your months get better. When you fix your monthly cycle, your years get better. It compounds in the positive direction just like it compounded in the negative direction. Let me address something that stops a lot of people from breaking their cycles. The belief that it's too late. They think, I'm too old, I've been in this pattern too long, I've missed my chance, I should have started years ago. Let me tell you something. It's never too late to break a cycle. Never. I don't care if you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. I don't care if you've been in the cycle for 5 years or 20 years or 50 years. The best time to break it was years ago. The second best time is right now, today, this moment. Every day you wait is another day the cycle gets stronger. Every day you wait is another day of results you don't want. Every day you wait is another day of regret you'll carry. But every day you act is a day of progress. Every day you act is a day of reclaiming your power. Every day you act is a day of moving toward the life you actually want. Age is not the enemy. Inaction is the enemy. Resignation is the enemy. The belief that nothing can change is the enemy. As long as you're breathing, you can change. As long as you're alive, you can break the cycle. It might take longer than you wish. It might be harder than you hoped. But it's possible, and possible is all you need. I've seen people in their 60s completely transform their finances. I've seen people in their 50s completely transform their health. I've seen people in their 40s completely transform their relationships. It's never too late. The only thing that makes it too late is giving up. The only thing that makes it impossible is not trying. Now let's talk about the role of environment in maintaining cycles. Your environment is incredibly powerful. It's the water you swim in. It's the air you breathe. It shapes your thoughts, your choices, your actions, often without you even realizing it. If you're trying to break a cycle but your environment keeps reinforcing the old pattern, you're fighting an uphill battle. If your home is cluttered and chaotic and you're trying to create order in your life, it's harder. If your workspace is disorganized and you're trying to be productive, it's harder. If your kitchen is full of junk food and you're trying to eat healthy, it's harder. You've got to design your environment to support the new you. Make the right choices easier. Make the wrong choices harder. If you want to read more, put books everywhere and hide the TV remote. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to save money, automate your savings so it happens before you can spend it. Your environment should be your ally, not your enemy. It should remind you of your commitment. It should make the new path the path of least resistance. Small changes in your environment can lead to big changes in your results. And speaking of environment, let's talk about the people in your environment. We already discussed association, but I want to go deeper. The people around you don't just influence your philosophy. They influence your standards. They influence what seems normal to you. They influence what seems acceptable. If everyone around you is in debt, debt seems normal. If everyone around you is overweight, being overweight seems normal. If everyone around you is unhappy in their relationships, being unhappy seems normal. And when something seems normal, you accept it. You don't fight it. You don't question it. You just live with it. But when you surround yourself with people who have higher standards, your standards rise. When you're around people who are debt-free, you start to think debt-free is achievable. When you're around people who are fit, you start to think fitness is normal. When you're around people who have great relationships, you start to think great relationships are possible. Your associations set your standards, and your standards determine your results. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. If your standard is mediocrity, you'll be mediocre no matter how big your goals are. If your standard is excellence, you'll find a way to be excellent even if you don't hit every goal. Break the cycle by raising your standards, and raise your standards by changing your associations. Let me give you another critical insight about breaking cycles. You've got to replace the old pattern with a new pattern. Nature abhors a vacuum. You can't just stop the old behavior. You've got to start a new behavior. You've got to fill the space. If you're in a cycle of watching television every night and you decide to break that cycle, you can't just stop watching TV and sit there doing nothing. You've got to replace it with something. Reading, learning, creating, building, connecting, something positive and productive. If you're in a cycle of emotional eating and you decide to break that cycle, you can't just stop eating emotionally and not have a plan for what to do when the emotions hit. You've got to have a replacement. Go for a walk, call a friend, journal. Something that processes the emotion without the destructive behavior. Every cycle has a trigger and a reward. The behavior exists because it's meeting some need, even if it's meeting it in a destructive way. To break the cycle, you've got to identify the need and find a healthier way to meet it. Find a better behavior that gives you the same reward. This is the difference between breaking a cycle and white-knuckling it. White-knuckling is using sheer willpower to resist the old behavior without replacing it. It works for a while, but eventually willpower runs out. Eventually you cave. Eventually you go right back to the cycle. But when you replace the old behavior with a new behavior that meets the same need in a better way, you're not fighting yourself. You're redirecting yourself. You're creating a new cycle, a positive cycle. And positive cycles are just as powerful as negative cycles. They compound. They build momentum. They become automatic. This is how you make change sustainable. This is how you break the cycle permanently instead of temporarily. Let me talk about the importance of patience in this process. We live in a microwave society. We want instant results, instant gratification, instant transformation. But cycles don't work that way. They weren't built in a day, and they won't be broken in a day. You've got to be patient with yourself. You've got to give the process time to work. You've got to understand that meaningful change is like growing an oak tree. You plant the seed, you water it, you give it sunlight, and then you wait. You don't dig it up every week to see if it's growing. You trust the process, you stay consistent, and eventually you've got a mighty oak. Breaking a cycle is the same. You plant the new behavior. You water it with consistency. You give it the sunlight of the right environment and the right associations. And then you wait. Not passively, not hoping, but actively, consistently doing the work while trusting that the results will come. Most people give up too soon. They do the work for a week, for a month, and when they don't see dramatic results, they quit. They think it's not working. They think they're doing something wrong. They go back to the old cycle. But the truth is, it was working. The seeds were germinating. The roots were growing. They just weren't visible yet. If they had just stayed with it a little longer, breakthrough would have come. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It means consistent action without demanding immediate visible results. It means faith that if you do the right things long enough, the right results will follow. And they will. They always do. Not on your timeline, but on the timeline of natural law. Plant, water, wait. Plant, water, wait. That's the rhythm of breaking cycles. Don't skip the waiting part. It's where the magic happens. Now I want to address setbacks because they're going to happen. You're going to have days when you slip back into the old pattern, days when you make the wrong choice, days when you feel like you've lost all your progress. This is normal. This is part of the journey. The question is, what will you do when it happens? Most people beat themselves up. They say, see, I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't strong enough. I might as well quit. And they use the setback as an excuse to abandon the whole thing. But successful people, people who actually break cycles, they handle setbacks differently. They see them as information, not as identity. They say, okay, I slipped. What can I learn from this? What triggered it? What was I feeling? What was I thinking? How can I handle it better next time? They treat setbacks as part of the learning process. They get up, dust themselves off, and get back on the path. They don't let one bad day become a bad week. They don't let one bad week become a bad month. They interrupt the downward spiral quickly and get back to the disciplines. Here's a powerful principle. It's not how many times you fall that determines your success. It's how quickly you get back up. The cycle isn't broken by perfection. It's broken by persistence. By getting up one more time than you fall down. By refusing to stay down. Expect setbacks, plan for them, and when they come, don't catastrophize. Don't make them mean more than they mean. They're just data. They're just feedback. Adjust and keep moving. Let me tell you about the compound effect, because this is what makes all the difference in breaking cycles. The compound effect is the principle that small actions repeated consistently over time create massive results. It's how pennies become dollars. It's how steps become miles. It's how days become years. It's how the new you emerges from the old you. When you first start making changes, you won't see much difference. The first week, the first month, maybe even the first few months, the results are underwhelming. You're doing the work, but the payoff seems small. This is where most people quit. They expect the results to match their effort immediately. But the compound effect doesn't work that way. In the beginning, the results are small. But if you keep going, if you stay consistent, something interesting happens. The results start to accelerate. They start to multiply. What took a month to achieve in the beginning takes a week. What took a week takes a day. The momentum builds, the cycle breaks, and suddenly you're living a completely different life. But you only get there if you push through the early phase. The phase where it feels like nothing is happening. The phase where the effort seems to outweigh the results. That's the test. That's where your commitment is proven. Most people fail the test. They quit before the compound effect kicks in. Don't be like most people. Trust the compound effect. Do the small disciplines. Track the small improvements. Stay consistent even when it feels pointless. Because it's not pointless. Every right choice is compounding. Every small discipline is building. Every day of consistency is moving you closer to the breakthrough. And when the breakthrough comes, and it will come, you'll look back and realize that every single day mattered. Every single choice counted. Every single small discipline was essential. Nothing was wasted. It all compounded. Let's talk about identity because this is the deepest level of breaking a cycle. You can change your thoughts. You can change your actions. But if you don't change your identity, the cycle will pull you back. Your identity is how you see yourself. It's who you believe you are. And here's the thing. You will always act in accordance with your identity. If you see yourself as a broke person, you'll find ways to stay broke even if you make more money. If you see yourself as an unhealthy person, you'll find ways to sabotage your health even if you start exercising. The cycle exists at the identity level. To break it permanently, you've got to change your identity. You've got to see yourself differently. You've got to become a different person. How do you do that? Through your actions. Your identity is created and reinforced by what you do. Every time you make a choice, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you choose the new behavior over the old behavior, you're saying, this is who I am now. At first, it feels like acting. It feels like pretending. It feels inauthentic because it's not who you've been. But if you keep doing it, if you keep casting those votes, eventually the identity shifts. Eventually, the new behavior feels natural. Eventually, you're not pretending anymore. You've become that person. I am a reader. I am a saver. I am a healthy person. I am someone who keeps commitments. I am someone who follows through. These aren't just statements. They're identities. And they're created by consistent action over time. Break the cycle at the identity level. Don't just change what you do. Change who you are. And watch how your entire life transforms. As we move toward the conclusion of our time together, I want to leave you with this. Breaking the cycle is not just about improving your circumstances. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about taking back your power. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be. You were not created to live in cycles of mediocrity. You were not created to settle. You were not created to make excuses and blame circumstances and accept less than you're capable of. You were created for more. For growth, for contribution, for impact, for significance. But you'll never step into that potential while you're stuck in the cycle. The cycle keeps you small, it keeps you safe, it keeps you comfortable, but it also keeps you from your destiny. Breaking the cycle is scary, it's uncomfortable, it's hard work. But staying in the cycle is worse. Staying in the cycle means watching your life pass by while you dream of what could have been. Staying in the cycle means arriving at the end of your life full of regret. Wondering what you could have accomplished if you had just had the courage to change. You have that courage. You've always had it. You just have to use it. You have to decide that today is the day, that this is the moment, that the cycle ends now. Make the decision. Accept the responsibility. Change your philosophy. Change your activity. Measure your progress. Persist through the resistance. Change your associations. Become a learner. Practice the small disciplines. Fight through the mental and emotional battles. Design your environment. Raise your standards. Replace the old patterns with new patterns. Be patient. Handle setbacks with grace. Trust the compound effect. Change your identity. Do these things and I promise you the cycle will break. Your life will change. You will become someone you're proud of, someone who lives with purpose and passion and power, someone who creates results instead of excuses. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The time is now. Break the cycle. Your future is waiting. Thank you.